So on this first week, I plan to create a full 3-minute song that fitted into the genre I'd chosen. And for this week, I had chosen the genre Future Bass. This meant looking into extensive Future Bass tutorials and getting different ideas and creating my own take on the genre. The chords I used are F, G, A, and then E7th. And then I came up with the progression. So for the lead of the intro, I used a Key Glocken preset. I obviously messed with it a tiny bit from Sylenth. It was on the pack 3 and 353 on the preset list. Has as I've just loaded it up and I got the preset ready. It has a arpeggiator, phaser, chorus, and compressor on it already, with the phase and detune up and the cutoff all the way up. I think first of all I took this down to about half and took the abrogator off to see how that sounded. I didn't really like the phasing. I don't really like a phaser on anything. I took the chorus off. I added some EQ. I turned down the bass and the treble and added some delay. I think I just left it as it was and added some reverb. Dampened it a bit. So I decided to add another sound underneath, which would add to the layers and make it sound more real, to add like a natural feel to the glockenspiel. So I added a music box which had sort of like a click to it. It was like layered underneath. I didn't really do much to it. I took the reverb off and then just copied the MIDI over. I'll play what it sounds like without the music box underneath. And then with it. I also pitched it up an octave, so just moved the chords up just to make it seem bigger without adding anything like exciter or anything. So for the bass of the intro, all I did was I took a preset and I just put some glide on it, and then what glide does is it sort of like it mixes the note in and like pitches it up in a swift movement. And as you can see, all you have to do to get this effect is just overlap with the next note, like I have here. So what I did was I took the bass notes out of the chords and I just moved them down an octave to make this, and then spaced it out. On this week I also created an Instagram account under the name of Martian Music. I posted the photo that Cameron had taken of me. I think he took it a couple of weeks early because in my research I planned to do it on like week 4, but I ended up getting it out of the way sooner. I used Instagram's promotional option to boost my like count on the picture, and after the photo was posted, I followed a load of American music Instagram accounts, who would then follow me back, and after a couple of days, I would then unfollow them. So for the bass, I actually used 2. For the top, I used the Bad Electric bass, and for the bottom, I used Alchemy's Deep Subwave, which is just basically a sine wave. As we can see, in the actual preset, I didn't mess with anything. I left it as it is, a simple sine wave. It's got some resonance on it, and that's literally it. For the Bad Electric bass, that is left the same. I didn't even EQ it. I didn't feel the need. It felt right. It sounded right. It didn't need anything really. At bar 21, I decided to change it up, making a pre-drop, which is more like a drop in some cases. I added a preset called Key Icicle, which is a preset used by Chainsmokers and Alan Walker and many other artists. I added a bit of EQ to it, bass, treble, dampened the reverb that was already on it, and turned down the dry and wetness to about 14%. With the compressor, I just turned the release up and the attack down, and the threshold to about half. I turned the cutoff up, and on the filter B, I turned it up just over half. I turned the release down and the sustain up, and the same on amp A. I added a Kickstarter plugin, which, based on my research, I invested in. This imitates sidechain without actually having to sidechain it to the kick. There's 4 different options of sidechain and many different types of sidechain waves that you could use. So after I wrote the chords for the Key Icicle plugin, I decided to layer it with 2 pianos, one with the with highs cut to about 2K, as you can see in the EQ, and the bass boosted a bit. And then I added the Kickstarter plugin to both, and I kept a preset of this, but I just removed just under 10k hertz of highs. So after I added the piano, I felt like it needed something else. It needed a different synthesizer, so I added a Serum. Now it started out just being a single saw wave, and then I upped the unison, added another oscillator, detuned it, blended it, and I think if I was to redo this week, I'd definitely focus more on the plan. In my research, I planned to do this all in 1 week, but it's ended up dragging out into 2 weeks. It's probably going to take till next week to get this all done. And in the marketing side, I wish that I had posted more on this week, as I felt like for the first week of social media, it's really important to get yourself out there. And when you start following Americans, they need to see product over here. They need to see product on the Instagram account that they can link to, they can like, they can follow, they can understand. But if you just post a picture of yourself and then expect them to sort of like follow you because of that, then I don't think I would be hitting the market anymore. I think if I had posted loads of videos of my music and given them snippets earlier, then I think I would have had more followers than I do now. I think to improve this, I will focus more on the plan I have and try not to stray too far from it. This will allow me to finish each song on the week that I provided. In a commercial market, you can't have mistakes where you're falling behind, because if you're late on your release of your EP, especially if you have a massive fan base, you're not gonna have the support of the fans. The fans are gonna be disappointed. They're gonna be angry. They're not gonna be as understanding. Even if it is a general problem, you're still gonna need to be on top of it. And I think that's why I need to stay on my plan of the week-to-week plan I have set out in my research and stick to it. I will also be posting more on social media, as this week I only posted once, and it was a picture of the camera take of me. More posts I think will allow me more followers, to understand more about me as a person, and will help me gain followers. I will also be following more and more American followers after I post. Each time I post, I will follow more, so they can come to my Instagram account and instantly, see what I do, what I want to do. I've got an EP coming out. So it's week 2, and I hadn't really progressed much from what I'd done on week 1. Week 1 was mostly spent sort of structuring the song, but not very well, obviously, because I didn't really know where I was wanting to go with it. I think this week I spent the start of it sort of sound designing, watching YouTube tutorials, finding drum packs, all this stuff that was used. I did a tiny bit of research into drum packs in week 1, but thoroughly paid for a subscription on Splice in week 2, and got these packs with these nice sounds in. So the next thing I did was I added drums. and the drums were, to me, were the most important part to keep the flow moving from, especially from this bit, which didn't have any drums. So I decided to add an off-hat kick, which is from the Splice kit. I then added a snare, which is also from Splice. I then added the bass, which to me needed to flow with the movement of the Keyicicle. It's two preset deep subwaves, one an octave higher than the other. I then added some hi-hats, but it doesn't come in straight away, it comes in the second bar. So if you play the drums together, it goes. I then added from an African kit. So after this kind of pre-drop area here, I felt the need for a lead into the drop. So I needed everything to rise, but just repeating the first chords it didn't feel enough for me. It didn't feel like it was going anywhere. So I decided to add some rises, and of course these are sidechained pretty heavily by Kickstarter, so I needed to add the same preset to these risers, and this one's just like a rising white noise. Sidechains, and this one's sort of like a whirling white noise. Just added sort of a bit of movement to it. And the last one's just a synthesizer, which is just rising. So all of these are actually from the loop library in Logic. So you've got the build up here, and I needed some movement before the drop, so people know the drop is coming. Now I like to add trap stuff to my future bass drops, as you know, it's kind of part trap. So I added a loading gun. It's got like the sort of pullback of the slide of the gun here, and then you've also got the gunshot. I also added a fill, which is chopped up. The original fill just carries out. If I just mute this one, that's what it originally sounds like, but I just added an extra. I also added a hey, and altogether it sounds like this. So the next thing to do, and I found the hardest for me to do, was actually the drums of the drop. I wanted to go for something bigger and better, because I was trying to top this sort of like pre-drop verse kind of thing. I needed to go something really big, like especially the kick. The kick needed to be extremely hard hitting. So I found a kick off Splice. It's got no EQ or anything. I liked the way it sounded. I didn't feel the need to EQ it. Then I added the snare, which is of a Lux kit. Sounds like an axe swinging. This has just got Space Designer on. I then added open hi-hats from a kit I found on Splice, and then the shaker matching it. All the percussion instruments are actually from the same kit, even I think this is from Logic, Logic's own loop library. And then the hi-hats, of course. I wanted the drums to follow a trap rhythm, and found the best way to do that was to search up different types of trap rhythms. So in my research, I researched into hip hop, or the R&B side of hip hop, because they're sort of like a hybrid genre together now. And I researched into how to write trap drums, and I've always been into trap, but I've never implemented any trap into my future bass before. It sounds really trappy here. The next thing I started to do was I started to go into Serum, which is the plugin I use to create the synths, and I found some presets which is from the Hauntley Future Bass pack, and I think I used all three of these. They all have different sounds and different effects on them, which I didn't mess with because I like the original sound of them. So the first one sounds like this. It's a very Alenium kind of style synth. And then I EQ'd the bass out of it. I then, for this one, I think it's EQ'd in the middle, so it's sort of like a middle, so I have like a full range of EQ, so it sounds really full. And then the last one here has no EQ at all, I don't think. Oh no, it does have a high pass filter on it, just to get some of that low end in. And then of course the sub, which is from Serum, and I've just boosted the bass a tiny bit and turned it down. I then I used the original way of sidechaining for a compressor, and I had a preset that I set. It's called the Future Bass Sidechain. It's basically turning the release down, the attack up, and then the ratio to 5.6, and then the threshold to 15, minus 15, and then also turn off auto stuff. And then I went up here and then I sidechained it to the kick. I put a limiter on. It's pretty simple. No makeup gain because I didn't want the makeup gain overpowering when the sidechain finished. So when it came back up, it wouldn't be too loud. So I just left the makeup on 0. Oh, another thing to add, I added a child saying hi here. It's very sort of trappy, which is actually on a trap kit. For the rest of the song, it's pretty simple. It's just copying the same structure basically, but instead of it coming in after a repeat of the first chords of the pre-drop here, it goes straight into it. For the drop again, I changed it up. I added the shaker in straight away, and then I added these Indie Kit Live toms. And then it just carries on exactly the same. For the ending, I put the piano from the pre-drop in, and just cut them off. One of the bonus points of this week was that I finished the song, which meant that I could then move on to working on more of my marketing side. For this week, I didn't actually put anything up on my marketing. I was too busy writing the song, producing the song, and mixing most of it. Not the full mixing, just like basic mixing, just to get it leveled, ready for a snippet. What I wanted to do was I wanted to actually be able to post something worthwhile on my social media instead of posting something that didn't mean anything to me, like another photo of me. Like, they didn't really want to see that. They wanted to see the music, which I know that means that I'm behind on my marketing now, which means I haven't stuck to my plan. I think to improve next week, I need to focus on my marketing, posting pictures daily, letting the followers know what I'm doing, and how I'm doing, how the EP's going. Give them a little snippet or something. Maybe just like put a photo of a microphone or something that I'm recording with. I also need to book some studio time. because I haven't booked any studio time yet. That's an area for improvement. And just get on with the next song, get that done in a week, and then I'll be back on track.